I swear, it was never supposed to go this far. One stupid night. One careless laugh. One harmless challenge that somehow rewired the way I see myself forever. I was standing in front of the mirror, my hands gripping the edge of the sink so tightly my knuckles had gone white. The bathroom light felt too bright, too honest. My heart was pounding so loud I was sure my roommate could hear it from the other room. Because the reflection staring back at me wasn't the guy I'd been my whole life. My roommate had dared me as a joke. "You always say fashion is easy," she laughed, tossing a dress onto my bed. "So prove it. Wear this. Full look. No backing out." I'd rolled my eyes. Mocked her. Said yes because I didn't want to look scared. But now? Now the fabric hugged my body in places I'd never paid attention to before. My legs, bare, smooth under the soft glow, looked different. Longer. Delicate. Wrong. And yet, why couldn't I stop staring? My throat went dry. "This is ridiculous," I muttered to myself, but my voice sounded unfamiliar. Softer. Unsteady. I leaned closer to the mirror. The wig framed my face gently, brushing my cheeks. A hint of makeup, nothing dramatic, just enough to change everything. My eyes looked bigger. My lips fuller. My expression, vulnerable. For a terrifying second, my brain refused to catch up. Is that really me? A rush of emotions slammed into my chest all at once. Embarrassment so hot it burned, fear sharp enough to make me want to rip the dress off, and beneath it all, a quiet, dangerous curiosity. I felt exposed. Not just physically, but emotionally. Like this reflection was seeing parts of me I'd spent years pretending didn't exist. Then my roommate knocked on the door. "Okay," she called, teasing. "Let me see the damage." I froze. Every instinct screamed at me to change back. To erase this moment. To pretend it never happened. But instead, my hand reached for the door handle. And in that moment, standing there in heels I didn't know how to walk in, heart racing, breath shallow, I realized something terrifying. This wasn't just a dare anymore. This was the beginning of something I wasn't ready for, but couldn't turn away from. The next morning felt unreal. I woke up to my alarm buzzing like it always did, sunlight cutting through the curtains, the same ceiling above my head, but I felt different. Heavier. Aware. Like something inside me had shifted during the night and refused to go back into place. For a split second, I forgot. Then my eyes drifted to the chair in the corner. The dress was still there. Folded neatly. Innocent. Waiting. My stomach flipped. I sat up slowly, running a hand through my hair, replaying every second from the night before, my roommate's laugh, the mirror, the way my heart had raced when she said, "You actually look kind of cute." Cute. I shook my head hard, like I could physically knock the thought loose. Get it together. It was just a joke. But jokes aren't supposed to follow you into the shower. They're not supposed to make your chest tighten when you catch your reflection in the fogged mirror and swear your posture looks softer. At breakfast, my roommate acted completely normal. Too normal. She scrolled through her phone, sipping coffee. "You good?" she asked casually. "Yeah," I said too fast. She looked up, eyebrow raised. "You sure?" I nodded, avoiding her eyes. My face felt warm. Exposed. Like she could see straight through me, see the way my thoughts kept drifting back to how the fabric felt against my skin. On the way to work, every step felt off. My clothes were the same as always, jeans, hoodie, sneakers, but I kept tugging at them like they didn't sit right anymore. Like my body remembered something my mind was trying to forget. At the office, things got worse. People stared. Or at least, it felt like they did. I caught my reflection in the elevator doors and frowned. Nothing obvious was different, so why did I feel like I was wearing a secret on my face? During a meeting, my coworker leaned over and whispered, "You okay? You seem distracted." "I'm fine," I muttered, forcing a laugh. But my heart was racing. My palms were sweaty. Every laugh around the table sounded sharper, louder, like it might suddenly turn into laughter at me. At lunch, my friend Sam squinted at me across the table. "Bro," he said slowly, "have you lost weight or something?" I nearly choked on my drink. "What?" "No. I don't know," he shrugged. "You just look different." There it was again. Different. That word followed me home like a shadow. When I finally stepped back into the apartment, I kicked off my shoes and leaned against the door, eyes closed, chest rising and falling fast. I hadn't done anything wrong. I hadn't changed anything. So why did it feel like my entire life had been tilted just a few degrees off center? Later that night, alone in my room, I stared at the dress again. Fear tightened my chest. But beneath it, anticipation fluttered softly. And that scared me more than anything else. That night, I locked my bedroom door. Not because anyone would barge in, my roommate always knocked, but because I needed the illusion of safety. Privacy. Control. Like if the door was locked, whatever happened inside stayed contained, manageable. I sat on the edge of my bed for a long time, staring at the clothes laid out in front of me. The dress again. A different top this time, soft fabric, lighter color. A pair of leggings I'd borrowed earlier and never given back. Even the heels were there, lined up neatly, accusing and inviting at the same time. My heart thudded as I stood. I can stop anytime, I told myself. This doesn't mean anything. Still, my hands moved on their own. Pulling the leggings up felt strangely intimate. The way they hugged my legs, smoothing everything out, made me hyper-aware of my body. I'd never paid attention to how my thighs looked before. Never noticed how different my reflection became when clothes emphasized curves instead of hiding them. The top slipped over my head easily. When it settled against my chest, I sucked in a breath. It wasn't revealing. It wasn't dramatic. But it was unmistakably feminine. I walked to the mirror slowly, almost reluctantly. Each step made my pulse spike, like I was sneaking toward a truth I wasn't ready to face. When I finally looked up, I didn't flinch this time. I studied myself, really studied. The way my shoulders sloped. How my waist looked narrower in this outfit. How my stance shifted without me consciously deciding it should. My brain scrambled for explanations. It's just styling. Anyone would look different in these clothes. But that didn't explain the warmth spreading through my chest. Or the strange calm that followed the nerves. I sat down at my desk and reached for the makeup bag. This time, I wasn't rushing. I took my time, applying things carefully, experimenting. I leaned close to the mirror, tongue pressed lightly against my lip in concentration. A soft laugh escaped me when I messed up eyeliner and had to wipe it away. I wasn't panicking. I was enjoying myself. That realization hit harder than any embarrassment. Afterward, I practiced walking. It sounds silly, but it felt important. I took small steps at first, then longer ones. Adjusted my posture. Let my hips move just a little more. Watched how my reflection changed with every subtle shift. I tried smiling differently. Softer. Less guarded. Then I spoke. Okay, I whispered. The sound startled me. I cleared my throat and tried again, lowering my volume, rounding the words unconsciously. It wasn't about pretending to be someone else. It was about discovering how many versions of me existed beneath the one I'd always shown the world. I lay back on my bed afterward, staring at the ceiling, heart still racing, but not from fear anymore. From possibility. Over the next few days, it became routine. I'd wait until the apartment was quiet. Lock my door. Change. Sometimes just for 10 minutes. Sometimes for hours. I tried different outfits, different combinations. Not to impress anyone, but to understand myself. I started noticing things. How sitting cross-legged felt more natural dressed like this. How my expressions softened without effort. How the constant tension I carried in my shoulders melted away when I stopped policing myself. And yet, guilt crept in too. What does this say about me? What if someone finds out? What if this isn't something I can put back in the box? One night, I caught myself smiling at my reflection. Not nervously. Not mockingly. Genuinely. That smile lingered long after I changed back into my usual clothes. Long after I turned off the light. And lying there in the dark, I finally admitted the truth I'd been avoiding. This wasn't just curiosity anymore. This was becoming part of me. The first time I stepped outside like that, my hands wouldn't stop shaking. Not fully dressed, nothing obvious enough to scream for attention, but different enough that I could feel it in every nerve of my body. Slim jeans instead of my usual loose ones. A soft, neutral top that fell just a little differently on my shoulders. Shoes with a slightly raised sole that changed my posture without anyone else noticing. But I noticed. Every step felt intentional. Every movement felt chosen. I stood in front of the apartment door for a full minute, fingers hovering over the handle, heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. You can still change, my mind whispered. No one will know if you don't go. But another voice, quieter, steadier, answered back. You'll know. So I opened the door. The hallway felt longer than usual. The elevator ride was torture. I kept my eyes forward, shoulders relaxed, breathing slow, just like I'd practiced in the mirror. When the doors opened in the lobby and I stepped outside, the cool air brushed against my skin, sending a shiver straight through me. I walked to the cafe down the street, the same one I'd been to 100 times before. But this time, it felt like a stage. Every person I passed made my heart spike. Every glance felt like a spotlight, even though most people didn't look twice. I realized something strange as I walked. No one was staring. No whispers. No laughter. No disaster. Inside the cafe, the smell of coffee wrapped around me, familiar and grounding. I stood in line, rehearsing my order silently, terrified my voice would betray me somehow. When it was my turn, the barista smiled. What can I get you? That was it. No confusion. No hesitation. My chest loosened for the first time all day. Latte. Please. She nodded, tapped the screen, and moved on like this was the most normal thing in the world. I took my drink and sat by the window, hands wrapped around the warm cup, watching people pass by outside. A quiet laugh bubbled out of me, soft, disbelieving. I did it. That small victory changed everything. After that, I started experimenting more. Subtle at first, lighter colors, softer fabrics, accessories no one could immediately label, but that made me feel different. More honest. More present in my body. I practiced my walk in public now, not just in my room. I noticed how people responded, not to what I wore, but to how I carried myself. When I was tense, withdrawn, I felt invisible. But when I relaxed, when I let myself take up space gently instead of defensively, people smiled more. Held doors open. Made eye contact. It messed with my head. Had this version of me always been here? Waiting? One weekend, my roommate glanced at me as I came out of my room and paused. You look really good today, she said carefully, not teasing this time. I froze. Yeah. She nodded. Yeah. Comfortable. Like you're not trying so hard. That hit deeper than she probably realized. Because she was right. I wasn't trying anymore. I still felt fear, of course I did. There were days I'd catch my reflection in a store window and panic would surge back. Days when I'd retreat into old habits, old clothes, old armor. But those days felt heavier now. Less natural. The more I allowed myself to explore, the clearer it became. This wasn't about dressing up or pretending. It was about permission. Permission to soften. Permission to feel. Permission to exist without forcing myself into a shape that never quite fit. Walking home one evening, sunset painting the sky pink and gold, I realized something that made my throat tighten. I wasn't chasing excitement anymore. I was chasing peace. And for the first time in my life, I was starting to find it. I should have known it wouldn't stay private forever. The moment everything collided was supposed to be simple, a small after-work gathering, nothing fancy. Drinks. Music. Familiar faces. The kind of night I'd attended dozens of times before without a second thought. But this time, standing in my room, staring at my reflection, my chest felt tight. I wasn't dressed dramatically. No heels. No bold makeup. Just a carefully chosen outfit that leaned softly feminine, tailored pants, a flowing top, subtle makeup that blurred the line between who I was and who I was becoming. I looked like myself. And that terrified me. My phone buzzed. Sam, you coming or what? I swallowed. This wasn't like the cafe. This wasn't strangers who didn't know me. These were people with expectations. Histories. Assumptions. I heard my roommate's voice from the hallway. Hey, she said gently. You don't have to prove anything tonight. I met her eyes. I know. But we both knew this wasn't about proving anything. This was about hiding, or not. At the bar, the noise hit me first. Laughter. Glasses clinking. Music humming beneath conversations. I felt exposed the moment I stepped inside, like the air itself had changed. Heads turned. Not dramatically, but enough. I felt my pulse in my ears. My body wanted to fold inward, to shrink back into the safest version of myself I could remember. Old habits screamed at me to laugh it off, make a joke, draw attention away from how I looked. Then Sam walked up. He stopped mid-step. "Hey," he said slowly, eyes flicking over me, not unkindly, but clearly surprised. "Wow. You. I waited. Breath held. Muscles locked. "You look different," he finished. There it was. The word that had haunted me for weeks. Different. I could have brushed it off. Could have said I was just trying something new. Could have retreated behind humor and let the moment pass. Instead, I did something that felt like stepping off a cliff. "I know," I said quietly. "And I'm okay with that." Silence stretched between us. My heart hammered so hard I thought I might pass out. Sam studied my face, not my clothes, not my body, but me. Then he exhaled. "All right," he said. "If you're good, I'm good." Just like that. The tension didn't vanish instantly. There were looks. Awkward pauses. A few whispered questions I pretended not to hear. Each one stung, but not enough to break me. Because something else was happening beneath the fear. I wasn't crumbling. I was standing. Later, someone I barely knew smiled at me and said, "You seem really confident." I almost laughed at the irony. I wasn't confident. I was terrified. But I was also done running. Standing there, drink warm in my hand, surrounded by noise and judgment and possibility, I realized this was the moment everything hinged on. I could spend my life editing myself for comfort. Or I could let myself be seen, uncertain, unfinished, real. And for the first time, the choice felt clear. The night didn't end with applause or some dramatic movie-style revelation. It ended quietly. And somehow, that made it more powerful. When we got back to the apartment, the door clicked shut behind us and I let out a breath I felt like I'd been holding for weeks. My shoulders sagged. My body finally relaxed. My roommate leaned against the counter, watching me carefully. "You okay?" she asked, not playful, not teasing. Just real. I nodded slowly. "Yeah. I think, yeah." She smiled, soft and proud. "You were brave tonight." That word hit me harder than I expected. Brave. I went to my room and stood in front of the mirror again, the same one that had terrified me at the beginning of all this. The lighting was gentler now. Or maybe I was. I didn't rush to take anything off. Instead, I looked at myself the way I'd always avoided, without judgment, without trying to categorize what I was seeing. Not male. Not female. Just me. Someone in progress. For the first time, I didn't feel like I was pretending. The next few days were different. Not magically easier, but clearer. At work, I stopped overthinking every gesture. I wore what felt right within my comfort zone and let that be enough. When someone looked at me a second too long, I didn't immediately assume the worst. Sometimes, a look was just a look. Sometimes, it was curiosity. And sometimes, it was admiration. I started setting boundaries too. With myself. With others. I no longer laughed off comments that made me uncomfortable. I didn't apologize for existing differently. One evening, my roommate joined me on the couch and said, "You know, you don't owe anyone a label." I swallowed. "I know. And you don't owe anyone an explanation either." That settled something deep inside my chest. This journey didn't need a destination yet. I didn't need to define myself in neat, understandable terms for the world to approve of me. I just needed to keep listening, to my body, my emotions, my sense of peace. I still had moments of doubt. Of fear. Days where I wanted to retreat into old habits because they were familiar and safe. But now I knew something I hadn't before. Safety without honesty is just another cage. The dare that started all of this had stripped something away, not my masculinity, not my identity, but the lie that I had to fit inside one narrow version of myself to be worthy. Standing there, finally comfortable in my own skin, I realized this wasn't about becoming someone new. It was about allowing myself to be whole. If you had told me a few months ago that a silly fashion dare would change my life, I would have laughed and walked away. But now, looking back, I understand something I didn't then. Sometimes, the moments that scare us the most aren't there to humiliate us. They're there to introduce us to ourselves. I didn't lose who I was. I found parts of me I'd been taught to ignore. And no, this journey didn't give me all the answers. I still wake up some days unsure, still learning, still unlearning. But the fear no longer controls me. Curiosity does. Honesty does. So if you're watching this with that same tight feeling in your chest, wondering why certain things call to you, hear this from me. You're not broken. You're not late. And you're not alone. Sometimes, becoming yourself starts with a doubt, and the courage to say yes.